Guys, I am so excited. Today is officially episode number 3 of ThePath Unfiltered, and I'm super excited for today's guest. Today's guest is someone who has solidified her place in the professional game and played a key role in the Orlando Pride's recent title success this past season. She started the grind at an early age, absolutely balled out at the collegiate level, and has now made her mark in the NWSL. A defensive midfielder known for her skill, leadership, and work ethic, she joined the Orlando Pride in 2022 after a trade with the Houston Dash and quickly became a part of their roster. But her story isn't just about football. It's about resilience, overcoming challenges, and balancing her life as a professional athlete with everything else that comes with it. In this episode, we dive deep into her path, starting from the early days in the game, rising to the top of her sport, and navigating both the triumphs and struggles along the way. We'll also touch on some hot topics you'll want to hear about. This is ThePath Unfiltered. Please welcome Hayley McCUTCHEON. Thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah. So tell us, where are you guys at right now? You're in preseason. How's everything going?
Yeah, we're about 2 weeks in. Things are going well. We had an inter squad yesterday, so just kind of getting our feet back under us. But we're basically the same core group that we had last year, so we're feeling good. You
mentioned you had some of the people that retired, but how'd everyone look coming back in?
Yeah, I mean, we only had 6 weeks, so we weren't too rusty, thankfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just trying to pick back up where we left off and build on what we did last year.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see how you guys are going to do. I'm sure you guys will kick ass again. So tell us a little bit about Hayley McCUTCHEON growing up. You grew up in Overland Park, Kansas. A lot of memories there for me. But tell us a little bit about how you got started into the game, who influenced you at an early age. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, back then I was Hayley Hanson, growing up.
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm a middle child, so I have an older sister who I just wanted to do everything she did, and she played soccer, and I was like, sure, let's try it. And quickly found out that was kind of my niche, and so it's fun to do things you're good at, and I just kind of kept doing it. So
how old were you when you realized, damn, I'm actually pretty good at this?
I think I always knew. I was that annoying kid who was scoring 10 goals in the little league game, and the parents are getting mad, but I just I don't know, I just had that kind of instinctual feel for the game, and so I think I always kind of knew that was something I wanted to pursue. But I think it really came into reality more in high school when you're playing against older players and kind of taking it more seriously.
Gotcha. With getting recruited, now you ended up going to Nebraska, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What other schools were you looking at? Were you being recruited by?
Yeah, so I committed to Nebraska my freshman year of high school, which was so early.
That is very early.
Yeah, and it was funny. I never doubted my decision because I wanted to go and develop and play all 4 years. I didn't want to go somewhere and sit on the bench for 2 years, and you know what I mean.
Yeah,
that was just kind of a big priority for me, and I actually went to a summer camp at Nebraska to kind of feel out what they were about, and I learned more in that week than I had my whole soccer career, and so I was like, this is where I want to be. But yeah, I had some other, bigger name schools being like, you're too good to go to Nebraska. You shouldn't go there. And I'm like, nope, I'm sticking with it.
To your word.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
I'm so glad I did.
Did you feel a lot of pressure being a freshman? You had 4 years, right? There's a lot of leeway there for things to go wrong, whether it's an injury.
Totally.
I know that's a big thing. What was that like?
Yeah. I think, like I said, I always had a piece about it, but I did play other sports competitively. I was a basketball player, believe it or not, at my height. But I was actually decent.
What position?
I was a 2, a shooting guard, typical. But I was, I enjoyed it, but definitely not as much as soccer. And that was kind of a hard choice I had to make, of giving that up to, make sure that I was healthy and ready to go.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Now, when you broke into the collegiate level, what was that like for you, that transition? Did it come to a shock to you, or were you just naturally gifted?
It was definitely a jump. And I think Nebraska really pushed me to have to come in and make an impact on that team. And we weren't super successful my first couple of years because we were kind of, regrouping. They'd won the Big Ten tournament the year before I got there. So I was like super pumped, and then, we kind of fell flat. But it really pushed me to just kind of fall in love with the process of getting better and what that looked like to lead a team on and off the field, even at like a younger age. And so, it was definitely tough though. Anytime you make that jump to a new level, it's going to be an adjustment.
There's that adjustment phase for sure. And some people overcome that. Some people kind of fall to that.
Totally.
But when you realize, I guess, was it junior year, senior year, even freshman year, when did you know, okay, I can take this to this next level, which is professional? Did you know you were always going to be professional level, or what was that like?
No, definitely not. I had a strong year my junior year, was getting on the score sheet. Like I just kind of did whatever I wanted in the midfield in college, not super like tactically demanding at that level. So had a good year my junior year, but still felt kind of that underdog mentality of like, I'm probably going to have to go and earn my spot somewhere if I'm going to make it at the next level. And, I hadn't been called into like youth national teams like other players had, but, I didn't really let that get me down. I just, again, focused on, how can I improve and get better? And so my senior year was actually at the end, like I wasn't going to play another game of soccer as far as I knew. And I got my first call up into the 23s and had a good camp, got called into another, and got a call from BJ Snow was the coach at the time. And he called me and said, hey, like, you were the best player at camp, and like I would not be surprised if you go in the first round of the NWSL draft. Me thinking that I'm not going to get drafted, I'm going to have to go and try out somewhere. So that just completely changed the trajectory of my career. I'm pretty good at this. I'm pretty good. Right. Yeah. Like that validation was so cool. And awesome. So I was super thankful that, I did wait I didn't wait, but my opportunity came at that time because it was kind of the perfect storm.
Sounds like the perfect time.
Yeah, right.
And what year was that? That was 2018?
That was 2017, 2018.
2018. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Now, I guess I like asking this question. What came to the biggest shock to you when you reached that pro level? And it doesn't have to be necessarily on the field as well. It could be something off the field.
Oh, it was definitely just the speed of play. Like I was going into a few kind of preseason trainings with the team, and I'm like, my head's spinning. I am like, whoa, this is, completely just a step up, so much more than it was from the club level to the collegiate level.
So speed of play for sure.
Totally.
How long did it take you to kind of adjust? And were you at any point thinking, holy shit, am I gonna make it?
Yeah. So it's so interesting. After getting drafted, I was drafted in the first round, and you kind of feel like you're on top of the world, and then you don't realize that you have not even done anything yet. You basically got invited into preseason camp. You haven't earned a contract or anything. And so that was definitely daunting. And our coach at the time waited until like a week before our first game to like extend the contracts to the rookies. And so like the whole preseason, I was just like battling, and I felt confident, but at the same time, you can never take anything for granted.
Of course. So. What was the atmosphere like in the locker room in college compared to the pros?
Definitely more of a lovey-dovey family vibe, and then you get to the pros. And not to say that's not the case, but it's so much more competitive at the pro level, and these are people's jobs and livelihoods that you're messing with, wanting to beat each other out for. And so it's a little bit of a different dynamic for sure.
Yeah. What do you, what do you think people misunderstand the most when it comes to being a pro athlete?
Well, as a female pro athlete, I still get the question all the time, is that your full-time job?
Really?
Yeah, it is. I got 6 weeks off this year, and then we're back at it. Oh, yeah.
I guess we're in a little bit of a bubble, in the football world. You're just like, in it every day, and then there's still people that say, you do that full time.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I don't hold it against them because like you said, we're fairly new and people are, they don't know, but yes, it's my full-time job. It's really hard.
And I'm really good at it
too.
This episode is brought to you by SS Pools. Based out of Long Island, New York, SS Pools is a pool company that's been in business for over 20 plus years. The work is serviced by the owner himself, so the pool is going to be handled with quality and care. If you're interested in inquiring, send an email over to sspools@gmail.com and they'll get you taken care of. Mention the Path podcast for a 25% discount for your first 2 months of service. That's a shock to me. I don't think I've ever heard that. Now, I mean, the game has grown so much in the last 10 years, men's and women's. And what do you think maybe some people misunderstand about the women's game on the side of things and how it's grown?
I think it's different than the men's. It's just a different style, but you have to come out and see what it's about in order to appreciate it and understand it. I think once people go and experience it, they can then appreciate it. But when you compare the two, it's difficult because of course, it's difficult.
I was going to say, it's definitely been tremendous strides made, I think, in the past 5 years, right? In regards to the women's game and how much it's grown. And to be a part of that for you, it's probably a cool feeling, right?
Oh, yeah.
You brought Orlando a championship.
Yeah.
What was that like within the city, or with the fans? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was unreal. I think I arrived at a time where Orlando was rebuilding and it was not guaranteed that things were going to get better, honestly. So just being here for the 2 years I've been here and the improvement that we've had due to the fact that we've brought in amazing players, but amazing people. And so I think it meant that much more to win and do everything we did last year with that group. The fans have been so loyal, and we had an insane parade after we won, and it was amazing. We were okay, are people gonna show up? I don't know. It was a weekday at 3:00. I'm what's gonna happen here? And the city showed out, and so it was incredible.
That's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
You mentioned having, besides just good players, good people on the team is huge when it comes to the success of any team in general. What would you say, right? Let's say, I like to ask this question, would you rather be the star player on a team that's not doing great, or be just a key role player in a team that's doing really good and winning championships?
Winning championships.
There's only one right answer.
Easy, yeah.
Gotcha. Now, can you, kind of moving on to the highs and lows with athletes, a lot of them go through trials and tribulations, right? Can you describe a time, what was the hardest day of your career? Do you have a time where you can pinpoint something?
My rookie year was a little bit traumatic, to be honest. Yeah, it was a year of such highs, doing something that I didn't think was possible, and making a pro roster and doing all of that. I actually got my first call up to the full team that year too. And the hardest day of that year was probably getting that call and feeling like I didn't deserve it.
It's kind of felt like
imposter syndrome. Oh my gosh, major imposter syndrome.
Why do you think that is? I mean, I feel like it's easy to fall into that, but you think back to all the time, energy, and effort you put into the game, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about why you felt that?
Yeah, I think I just felt like it was all happening so quickly. And I had a good mindset going into camp. I was I'm just gonna, do my best and not take away from the training environment. But I feel like I went into it a little bit I wasn't as aggressive as I should have been. I wasn't as confident as I should have been, because I think, again, that underdog mentality of I don't know, don't think too highly of yourself. You still have so much you can grow in. And that's been a battle my whole career, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, to back myself and believe that I'm a good player and still be you have to get better.
I think that's the side that most people probably don't see as much, right? The internal battles that athletes have, right? I mean, you're talking about somebody that's had national team call-ups, has a lot of success, and you've also scored in important games as well. So I would say that's something that for the normal person outside looking in, you're like, oh, that person doesn't struggle with any confidence. Who do you lean on in those times when it's a little bit tough?
Yeah. I mean, my family is so supportive. My husband is amazing. And believes in me, but my faith is also super important to me. I think I've shared this a lot, but as I've gone throughout my career, and then coming to a head in this past year, winning the championship was so exciting, but it was also like a little underwhelming.
Really?
In regards to the fact that if like we're already thinking about next year, we're already like moving on. And I think that that's also part of what can kill your confidence in this business is like, you're very disposable and like you could have done something one year, but it doesn't matter unless you show up the next day and like prove yourself. And so in that regard, like my faith just really grounds me, and I have to lean on that. I don't know how people do it without some sort of foundation.
So what's a little kind of key piece of advice you would tell people? I know the faith is really big for you, right? Some people, like you said, they might feel disposable. They might be battling with that imposter syndrome. These other athletes, what's a little piece of advice you would give them?
Yeah. Fight for perspective every day. Like, we do get in our soccer bubble, and it is important. Like, winning is important, and like what we're doing every day matters, but it's also not who you are. And so my teammates and I joke that like, okay, let's get our perspective back. Like, it's not the end of the world that we had a bad day at training or whatever. So that would be my advice.
I was gonna ask, what do you, I guess, is there ever a time where you maybe thought about quitting playing?
No.
Never? Not once crossed your mind?
No. I have so much fun. It's super hard, and yeah, we have to sacrifice a lot. Like, I miss weddings. I miss, my nephews being born, and like important things that matter to me in order to be here. And then
you have somebody saying, hey, is that your full-time job?
Right. Like, I'm like, actually, how dare you?
Number one, how dare you?
Yeah. But never a doubt. I think that when that time comes for me to be done, I'm gonna know, because right now I'm just having too much fun.
I was gonna say, have fun with it. What do you do? I guess, have you prepared for when that time comes? Obviously, we're still a ways away from that.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that at all? What that looks like for you?
Yes, I've thought about it. I have no answers yet, but I've thought about it. I have a college degree. I am probably capable of doing a lot of things, but I mentioned my first year was super tough, and a lot of that was due to the fact that I had never been in an environment where I haven't had bash anyone, but like,
you don't have to
I had a horrible coach.
Yeah.
And I'll say that.
Yeah.
And
that's a big piece of it that a lot of people kind of like to brush over, like tread lightly with. But I mean, you're talking about someone who's a leader and manning a team of 11 players, and that's a big piece of it. So I get that.
Yeah. And that was the first time I was like, oh, like, you can make such an impact on someone's life by, at the very least, being a good person and like valuing the person before anything else. And so thankfully, now I have a great coach that I really respect, and it's not that hard to be like a decent human being. Right. And so all of that to say, coaching is super intriguing to me. Okay. Because I think, like I said, you can really impact people's lives.
So you think probably you're exploring that coaching route for sure?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, and I've been doing this soccer thing for a long time. That's kind of my area of expertise. So why would I step out of that?
100%. So a lot of athletes do struggle with the transition, right? Yeah. I mean, you probably saw it a lot with your college teammates. I struggled with that when I was in college, transferring out. You're so used to going, hey, my name's Hayley McCUTCHEON and I'm a pro soccer player. And then you retire, hang up the boots, and then you go, hey, I'm Hayley McCUTCHEON and I'm a coach. I don't know what it's a weird transition. And I guess the fact that you already kind of have some ideas you're playing with, you're already a step ahead, and that's a huge piece of it. But I think with your leadership skills, being a good person, from what I've seen so far, you're a good person.
Thanks.
I think that could definitely be bright future for you. Now, going back to careers, right? The highs, the lows, all of it. What was the best individual moment for you in your career?
It had to be this last year. It had to be the scoring against Kansas in the semifinal. We're down 1-0 going into halftime, and I think
Let's say scoring on your hometown team.
Scoring on my hometown team to go home and play in their stadium for a title. So that's got to be the high. It was so sick.
I was gonna say it's definitely a different feeling, I'm sure. I was gonna ask if you could have kind of one do-over in your career, what would it be?
I think just going back to that confidence piece early on, I have been kind of thinking lately, seeing all of these young players who come up and they have so much confidence and they back themselves, and I respect it because you have to have that to, make it at this level to a degree and excel. And so looking back, I wish that I would have just been like, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I don't care that I'm the youngest one here. Like, I want to dominate right now.
I think that's a huge piece of it. Looking back, off the field, on the field, I think those are the qualities that maybe come from, past things that people were like, the imposter syndrome thing. I don't deserve to be here. But you think back and go, I've been putting in the work since I was a kid. Yeah, I do deserve to be here. And yeah, I am the best one there. You have to tell yourself that, because if you don't believe in yourself, who is?
Exactly.
Right? So that's interesting. So going back, you say, hey, I wish I was more confident in the beginning.
Yes.
But what about now? I would say pretty confident.
I am, but I also struggle with it. I think you can get caught on the other side of it, where you're too confident and you're not actually performing, and you just think that you're all that because of what you've done. So it's like that weird balance that you have to fight for every single day.
With mental health being a big hot topic just all across the country, obviously in the last 10 years, especially with pro athletes itself, is there a good support system, whether it's through the team, whether that's through your agent, whether it's through other resources where they provide to you, mental health, access to mental health, like sports psychologists, things like that?
Yeah, so we have a team sports psychologist that we meet with as a group, which we started last year, and I don't think it's a coincidence that we did so well, because it was really, really cool to do that as a group. And then he also offers services, one-on-one. And then through our CBA, which we don't have to get into, but they provide like a team therapist, a counselor, things like that. And they encourage it for sure, because we do have lives outside of soccer that, we go through stuff. And if you're dealing with a bunch of stuff up there, it's hard to perform.
It is. I was gonna say the biggest battle is the one upstairs. Now, what's the biggest misconception to the regular civilian or something like that when it comes to playing pro? What do you think the biggest misconception is?
The biggest misconception, that's like such a hard question.
I'll give you a good example. Sometimes I've asked that question before, and the other one is people just think you're like a robot and you get put on the field to play, and it's like, okay, I do struggle with these things outside of the field, right? Or hey, it's not all this glamorous, right? I don't know. There's a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. I think this is so random, but it just popped in my head. Like, we definitely don't have normal like working hours. That's like a given day. Like, we're at the facility from 8 to 2, but you never shut it off. Like, you're always thinking about what you're eating, what you're doing. Like, am I recovered enough? All of that. And so
I could take a toll.
It's exhausting.
That is very exhausting.
Yeah. And I've definitely struggled with the balance of not filling my cup with things that like matter to me and I say I value, because I'm like putting so much into, did I sleep enough? Did I,
Yeah, people think, like from the outside looking in, right? A lot of fans, a lot of people in the community probably look at it and go, oh, they get paid just to go ahead and play a game.
Yeah.
But what they don't see is, you're in there. You said 8 to 2, but I know sometimes it goes well beyond that. Okay, I have to get this recovery session in, so maybe I'll stay a couple more hours, right? Now, I can't imagine. I mean, people complain about working 12-hour days, but you mentioned not shutting it off and filling your cup with things you do like to do. What would you like to fill your cup up with? Like, what do you like to do?
I love being outside. Like, that's why I love Florida. There's so much to do here. But yeah, like I'm super active. Like I want to, go get coffee with my friends and not feel like I can't drink coffee after like 12 p.m.
Is that something that you actually didn't do for a while or what?
After practice, and you're also drained. Like you're so exhausted. I have to explain this to my husband of like, I have nothing left like up here, like anywhere, because I was running around in the sun for 2 hours today and it just like zaps you. So even if you do want to go do things that you enjoy, it's exhausting. You literally can't. So it's pretty crazy.
I saw the video. You kind of mentioned playing pickleball.
Yes.
Are you part of this pickleball epidemic that the country is seeing?
I wish I could be more a part of it. Yes, in my free time, I love to do it.
It's actually really fun.
It's so fun, and it's like a great workout. I will definitely be a pickleballer when I'm done playing.
I'll say there's a pro. It's a real thing.
It's legit. I watch it on TV sometimes. It's cool.
I was gonna say our mutual friend Carly, which is shout out to Carly. That's why she helped put this together. Big pickleball girl, and I finally gave it a shot, and I was like, you know what, this actually was. It was kind of fun, but then I looked to my right and there is a 70-year-old that was just killing it. And I was like, maybe this isn't meant for me. I don't know. It's tough. What other things, like besides sport-wise, I guess recreationally, is there any other sports that you still kind of participate in for fun?
I mean, I think that might go against my contract to do stuff.
That's true.
Although just speaking on that, I didn't know that you weren't allowed to do like extreme sports,
like snowboarding,
skiing, all of that. So I went skydiving one time, and like thank goodness my contract didn't get terminated because that would have been awful. But yeah, I think it might be in the contract somewhere that
can't be doing those things.
We're not allowed to be out there.
I guess no more skydiving in your near future.
No.
All right, I was gonna say this next kind of segment we'll spit off some rapid fire questions, things like that. And we'll kind of dive deep into it. But the first one is, what's the most awkward encounter you've had with a fan?
Ooh.
Or interesting, sorry. It doesn't have to be awkward.
Yeah. Just like having photos from my Instagram blown up and like I just think it's weird. Like it's just a little bit of an invasion of.
Oh, so they print out the photos.
Out the photos. You want me to sign them?
Yeah, I guess.
I'm sure my teammates have like way weirder stuff, but just blowing up the Instagram DMs.
Yeah, what's like the? It doesn't have to be weird, but the funniest, weirdest, I guess, DM you've ever gotten.
I mean, I don't know. Like people are obsessed with my dog, so they'll like just DM me about my dog. It's not even about me. I don't have fans. It's all my dog.
Usually the pets are always the star of the show.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say best player you've played with, and you can't say Magda because I know she's default. That is the best. That's the GOAT.
No, I have to say Marta.
Second best player.
Okay, second best that I've ever played with.
It could be played with or against.
Oh, against. I will say Sam Mewis. I think Sam was unreal.
Baller.
Unreal. Yeah.
Now you mentioned Marta, right, being the best.
Oh my gosh, the best.
What are some things that just stand out about her that you're like, wow, this unreal?
Yeah. Well, the person she is.
Great person.
She makes coming to practice every day so fun, and just the passion. Like, I mean, you can see it when you watch her play, but that is her like all the time. And so I just love her for that. And she's funny. Like just makes everyone laugh. She's just dancing all the time, just crazy. And she's good at everything. This is the last thing I'll say. She's so good at everything. She can like play all the musical instruments. She sings. She, like I said, she dances. I'm like, what are you not good at? Like, I'm so annoyed by you.
I was like, what else are you good at? What would you say you're really good at?
Really good? What else? I'm really good at, I don't even know. I'm just good at running.
Okay.
Like, I'm just really good at running. Like, so Marta, speaking of Marta, she calls me Casca di Bala. Do you know that?
Casca di Bala.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know that song?
I've heard it. Well, how's it go?
I don't know.
No, I haven't heard it.
She sings it.
I say, yeah, but I know the song.
It's called, it means like bullet shell or something.
Casca
And
di
she
Bala.
calls me Casca di Bala because I'm just like, she's like, you run for me. Like,
That's so
so that's the only thing that comes to my head. I'm not good at anything else.
Who's the most underrated player in the league that you would say?
Underrated. Oh, man. There's a lot of underrated players, I will say. I'll just say one on our team, Kylie Strom. She's like the heart and soul of our team and like such a big part of why we were good last year. Yeah. She played center back. She was originally a fullback, went to center back and just balled out for us. And so I think she is so underrated.
Yeah, we got to give him more of a shout out. I feel like a lot of these underrated.
Yes.
I was one of them. I was going to say, you got to give him some love.
And it's usually more those like defensive players that aren't, getting on the score sheet every game. It's like, give them like their flowers because they
deserve
are
it.
Out here. Yeah.
Picking up all the scraps and the dirty work.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you could fix one thing about the women's game or shine the light on it, right? What would it be? What would you say?
Higher salary cap.
Higher salary cap.
At least for our league. I know I don't know how other leagues operate, but like pay these players what they're worth.
Get them fucking paid.
Come on. Please.
Yeah.
Just because, we have it's getting better. It's getting better every year. And that's amazing. But, we have these like all-star players who do deserve to be getting paid these like $1 million contracts, but then like where does that leave the rest of the players when there's a $3 or $4 million cap? So it's like, it's important to
it's a hot topic for sure within the last, in the football world and sports world in general, right? But I think what we're seeing just with the WNBA has blown up in the last couple of years, right? And I think we're seeing that crossover into other sports as well, and it's pretty badass to see too.
Totally.
Yeah, I think 10 years from now too, it's strides are being made, right? Stadiums, infrastructure is being built, and just being vocal about it is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to see kind of where it's going to lead us in 5-10 years time. This next question, I asked you it before we went live.
Okay.
But what's the worst coaching advice you've ever gotten?
Okay. The worst coaching advice that I've ever received is walking out to a game and I'm a rookie, don't give the ball away. That's the worst thing you can say to a player.
That is the absolute worst.
Like, totally will mess you up mentally.
Oof, because then you're not playing within your...
You're just scared.
Oh.
You're playing scared, especially like as a midfielder. Like, you want to get on the ball, like you might make some mistakes, but like you're making aggressive mistakes, and that's when you're like at your best. And when you're in your head and you're thinking, don't make a mistake, it's killer. So
worse.
Horrible.
I was gonna say that goes kind of without saying. Hey, don't lose the ball.
Yeah, I don't want to lose the ball.
Yeah, damn, there goes my plans. I was about to pass it to the other team, but thanks for fucking telling me.
Yeah.
What's the best coaching advice you've gotten other than be yourself?
Yeah.
Right. I know that's kind of the default.
So this isn't for every player, but in college, my coach said the best players make the most mistakes.
Ooh.
And that just like freed me up to, like the opposite of that horrible coaching advice I got. It freed me up to, just play my game and make aggressive mistakes, as I mentioned, is like a good thing. And that's the best thing that you could say to a player. And not every player, because then some players will just be like, oh, whatever, I'm making mistakes, I don't care. But like the right personality, just... you can kind of unlock something. There's
a statistic. Now, you guys might have to fact check this, but Ronaldinho in the Libertadores, I believe it was 2013, which is big tournament in South America. He had the most assists that year, right? And then they looked beneath. He also had the most incorrect pass percentage.
Yeah.
Which is, but no one's talking about that because quite frankly, no one cares, right?
Yeah, right.
And I think there needs to be more of a push to be yourself, right? And let you kind of play within the freedoms. Do you feel with where you're at now, you feel that way? And do you feel like you play 100% in confidence in yourself? I feel like you do.
If I'm in the right headspace, yes, like when I'm flowing, but it takes a lot to get there. So yeah, it's I mentioned before, it's a daily, you have to show up and kind of fight to get in that mindset. But yes, I feel like where I'm at right now, I want to push myself. You can't get better if you're not making those mistakes and trying to do things that like you want to grow in while still doing the things that you're good at. So it's that, again, it's all about that balance. It's, especially, and I want to like also say is I don't want my center back trying to make the most mistakes and like do the craziest stuff ever.
Of course.
But
dribble out the back.
Yeah. So yeah, it just kind of depends where you're at, but it's soccer so much about, it's all about decision making. And so yeah.
Do you think if you could play any position, right, that's not your position, where would you play? What do you think you would excel at the most? Where do you love playing, I guess? I
love playing in the 6.
Yeah.
Like 6'8". We
6'8".
play with like 2 6s, sometimes 2 10s. So it depends. But I love that position because you're always involved.
Yeah.
And I love defending. I love, that phase of the game, and that's something that I'm really good at. And so I enjoy that. I think I might have been a pretty good center back though. I'm not that tall, but I just have that defensive,
just get stuck
kinda,
in.
Yeah, like just that defensive brain. And I played fullback for a long time in the league due to just necessity, and it was fun. But yeah, I think along the back line, I love like organizing and like communicating, making sure people are doing what they're supposed to do. I'm a little bossy, so
sounds like a good coaching quality.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Now you mentioned playing in that fullback position. What was adapting to a different position at the highest level? Right, that's not easy. That I don't think a lot of players could do well and excel the way you have with that. What was that like for you, adjusting to a new position? It
was actually easier coming from the midfield. Like, you said you play midfield, so like it's a 360 game, and then you move wider and back and everything's in front of you. So it was actually pretty nice. And obviously it depends on the team, the style of play that, you guys want to play. But I felt like I was able to excel there, and yeah, it was a blessing to, be trusted to go there too. Like I was young and had never played there, and they were like, actually, you're pretty good, so we'll keep you there.
And also excel at that position as well, which is huge. Now, talk to me a little bit more what the future for you looks like. All right, what are some big goals? Obviously, I'm sure being national team, being a part of that, participating in World Cup, are those things, I'm sure those are things you have your eyes set on. But future-wise, what's something that is a non-negotiable for you that you want to accomplish?
I want another championship for sure. Like, I think it's like we spoke on, yes, it was amazing what we did, and I wish we could have like relished in our success that last year more. But I also understand why people move ahead, because it's like, I want another one. And so definitely want to bring another championship here. And I think we're more than capable of it. And I do want to like get another shot at the national team. And I think that's sometimes scary to say, because if you don't achieve that goal, then you feel like you missed out and weren't good enough. And I know that there are external factors, and like it's all, subjective based on, the coach at the time and everything and what they want in a given position. But
do you see a lot of politics happening a lot in the back end?
I think it's interesting just speaking to players who have been more involved with the national team for a long time. It's interesting where like loyalties can lie, as far as like there are players who if they're not at the top of their game but they're still getting called in, like where's the line of like you have to be performing at the club level to still be getting opportunities. But then on the other hand, I understand, because you're building a team, you're building a culture there. And so, I mean, there's politics in everything. Like even,
100%.
On our team, it's like you just have players that you trust, and then players who are trying to break in, and that's just kind of how it goes. So that's very diplomatic of me, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like, it's just complicated, and
it's not very black and white.
Yeah.
And I get it being, I see a lot of the business side of things, right? It's talking about, oh, well, you're just disposable, right? I think that's the biggest shock that some people might see going into the pro side of things. You had this thing in your head. You're like, oh my God, I want to be a professional athlete. It's going to be this huge glamorous thing. And then when you get there, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Did you feel that when you initially went pro, or at what point did that happen? Was that first week you were in preseason? Or did it take maybe your first contract? What was that? At what point did it hit you?
Yeah. I mean, my first year was a mess. Like, I keep kind of alluding to it, but it was a mess. Like, the team was shambles, the coach was shambles, and I'm fine to say that because it was that awful. Wow. And so I didn't get a normal, like, first kind of taste of the league. But yeah, definitely there have been moments where I've had to just learn. We spoke before that I've had a lot of coaches at my previous team. I think I had 5 in 4 years, including like interims and things like that. And so sometimes you just have to realize that like you're not the coach's guy, and like you're not, what they want in a given position. Granted, it's been like maybe a couple games I don't start, and I'm like so annoyed, but it's like you can't let your confidence falter because you don't get picked.
That's a tough. I mean, you said 5 coaches in 4 years?
Crazy.
That is insane.
Yeah.
I say, especially when you know the game of football and knowing that it's really systems and styles of play. And if you're not that player in that system or style that coach has, good luck. We see that at the highest level, to the lower league levels. It's kind of everywhere. Yeah. And that's not easy. So I applaud you. And I guess Orlando was kind of the saving grace for you, would you say?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like Seb, who's my head coach now, he was an interim at the time. And I said things were not good that year. And then he came in, and the team was definitely starting to play with just more structure and more together, and they were winning games. And I was like, hey, I could be a part of that. Like, let's go. And again, that like kind of underdog thinking, I was like, I want to make a team good. And now here we are.
And you did it.
Yeah.
And you guys won a championship
cool.
last year.
I mean, it took definitely a lot of amazing pieces added, but.
You mentioned the 5 coaches in 4 years thing. How did that mentally affect you trying to play all these different systems? That would really mess with anybody.
Totally. Yeah, it's like, how do you keep the things that you're good at and focus on those things while still trying to like be someone different for a new coach? And at the time, it wasn't the most organized, I would say, in regards to some coaches want to tell you exactly what they want out of a fullback, and like these are the characteristics, and other coaches you kind of have to like figure it out. So it was really hard, again, mentally. It's like all comes back to the mental battles of, am I just gonna say screw it, I don't care, I'm just gonna play like who I am, or am I gonna try to please a coach? It's like really complicated.
Did you feel like maybe you were trying to please the coaches that came in a little? Is that
totally? Like at the end of the day, you want to play on the weekend, right. And so you're gonna do whatever you have to do that. At least my personality, I want to play, and so it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's about it. You mentioned a lot of the younger players now have that like confidence, that aura, like the youngies would say. But
oh my gosh, yeah.
A lot of them have that. You think maybe going back, you mentioned, I wish I would have been more like that. But do you think you'd be where you are today if you were that maybe a little cocky, more confident player at, where Houston, where you originally were at? Yeah. Do you think you'd still be where you are today?
That's such a good question. Because it's like you have to play the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And not to say like again, this is my personality. Like I'm kind of a people pleaser. I want to make the coach happy. So I don't know that like confident, cocky route would have boded well for me, because that's just not who I am. But at the same time, again, it's just, I think I'm happy where I ended up, and it worked out well for me. So
we kind of talked off camera a little bit, but you had came during a time in 2022 where you got signed and you were also getting married.
Yes.
That's a huge thing to balance. What was that like for you, right? I'm sure the husband was super, super supportive.
Yeah.
But what was that like going through these, you're talking about the two biggest things that can happen in somebody's lives, right? Obviously besides the birth of a baby or something like that.
Right. He was actually the one who was like, it's time for a change.
That's amazing.
I was not happy. And as I mentioned before, what I love about football is like, you can always get better. And I was not getting better. And I was unhappy. I was stressed out all the time. Like it was a really hard season for me. And so he was the one who was like, we need to do something new. And so I'm so thankful for him for pushing me kind of out of my comfort zone and making it okay for us to like do something different. Take
that leap of faith with you. It's like, let's do this.
Yes.
Shout out to the hubby.
Shout out to Payne.
That's awesome.
That
is awesome.
So, and then we made it happen, and Orlando was, it worked out for, my husband's job. His company has a big job here that they're finishing up. He works for, you heard of Epic Universe?
Epic Universe?
It's like the new Universal Park. And so his company's building that.
That is sick.
Super exciting.
That is so sick.
Yeah. So, it worked out.
Talk about all the stars kind of aligning,
well,
right?
Exactly. I felt like, and again, once he kind of made that a possibility for us, I was like, I had like a piece about it. And I really think, again, back to my faith, like it was all meant to be. And so, and then it was obviously hard to transition and be a part of a new group. And it was also very bizarre because another part of Houston that was hard for me was I felt like people always viewed me as a young player there. Like I'd been there for, I think that was my 5th season when I finally left. That's where you got drafted out of,
right? You went straight there, yeah.
I got drafted there, and I was like a forever rookie. Like no matter what I did, no matter how many games I played for the club, like I just felt a little bit, not disrespected, but kind of like I feel like I can't grow here. Like same thing as I said. And then I get here, it's a younger group, and they're all looking at me like, you're like a veteran. And I'm like, what is this? I don't know like how to navigate this at all. And
you navigated it pretty well, I'd say.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, thankfully, the group is amazing, as I mentioned, and they had a lot of grace for me and like learning and trying to figure out what it means to like lead in a way that is genuine and authentic to me. And so
I say you're part of something special, right? You came in, the team was finding its ways throughout the league, kind of in that rebuild phase. You mentioned underdog, and now you guys won a championship. Do you guys feel like you still have that underdog kind of mentality? Because that's important to harness, right? Because you can get caught up in like, we're good, we won the league last year. Do you think the team is still carrying that into this season?
I think we have to, like you said. It's funny, we keep saying that we spoke off camera, but like we did about our current coach Seb, and he is all about just like the hard work ethic. Like we're running fitness tests, like old school in that regard. And so we complain about it, but it's also, that's what made us successful last year.
No pressure, no diamonds.
Right. And so, and there was a stint, we had an amazing year. We were undefeated for, I don't even know how many games. And then we had a couple games towards the end where we lost back to back, which that was like the only goal we didn't reach, was we said, don't drop points 2 games in a row. So that was like the only thing out of all the amazing goals. I know.
Won a championship, but we
I
lost
don't
2
really
in a row.
care. I don't really care. Yeah. But in those games, it was kind of a reset of like, we're so good, but we are never going to be good enough to not like work our asses off on defense.
It's like a blessing in disguise, right?
Yes, exactly. And so, we have to have that mentality. And I think back to Marta, like she embodies that of like, I'm going to work. I'm the best player in the world, and I'm going to work for my teammates next to me. And you don't get that anymore.
That's amazing.
Like, you do not get that anymore. I don't care what anyone says. She's the GOAT.
That's amazing. GOAT by far.
Yeah.
Men and women's GOAT.
No.
My GOAT. Now, I'm excited to see Orlando Pride this season. If I had money, I'll put my bet that Orlando, hopefully you guys win again, right? Now, the biggest thing moving forward, what's one thing that you would put an emphasis on that you guys have to do? Is it keep the back line tight? Is it be more aggressive in the final third? Like, what is something specific that you guys are working on?
I think it's what you said of like, do not concede. When we look back at that unbeaten streak we had last year, I think we conceded like 13 goals in like 20 something games. Like it was insane. And so again, it goes back to that mentality of like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to like help my teammate and keep the ball at the back of the net. And we obviously have insane firepower in our front line. And so if we give them the opportunity to, get on the score sheet, like we'll win if we don't concede goals. So that is definitely like an underrated part of what we did last year.
Gotcha. Like I said, I'm super excited to see you guys. And, for those of you guys that are tuning in, please show your support, watch the games, share this episode. And as we kind of wrap up, I always like to ask this question as well. If this was your last ever interview you did, what's one thing that you would want to be remembered for?
We talk about this a lot on my team. And it took me a long time to get here, but it's about the people. Like, it's so cliche, but like, it's about the people that you're with every day. Even if we never did any of the things we did last year, like had any of the success we did, like the way you make people feel. And that's what I want to be remembered for, basically, is like
make somebody feel
encouraging others and like being, someone who they can go to.
I'll say, well, you're definitely doing that now. And, hopefully if coaching does happen for you, that'll lead so many doors that you could really leave an impact in people's lives. So where can people stay up to date with you, follow you, Instagram, Twitter, or I guess X or whatever they call it nowadays?
X, oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't do X. I also don't, TikTok is not for me. I'm just on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. Hey, Hanson.
Gotcha.
Hayley McCUTCHEON, whatever.
Is there anything else you want to wrap up? Anything you want to leave the audience with?
I mean, yeah, come watch us. Come watch us. It's fun. And we will interact with the people who are, supporting us. It's a community on the women's side. So
thank you again so much for doing this, taking time out of your day. I know it's a beautiful Sunday. Let you enjoy it. And again, thank you guys for tuning in. Follow Hey Hanson. Follow the Orlando Pride as well. Big things happening. I'm excited to see the growth in women's sport. And also, this is ThePath Unfiltered. Thanks again.
That was good. That was so fun.
There we go.
You're so good at that.
No.
That was really fun.